Okay, well this video is about Module 2. We're going to talk about commonly missed problems in Test 1. And numerals and other bases is what gives students most issues. So converting, adding, and subtracting. So let's get started with converting. So let's say we had the numeral 243 base 8. So first of all, it's called 243 base 8, not 243, because the terminology 243 has to deal with base 10 only. And so that terminology is only reserved for base 10. Since we're base 8 or any other base, you must refer to the digits. And so first of all, we need to take a look at what's the meaning or the place values of each of these digits in base 8. Okay, so let's say we have 3 place values here. And the first value is going to be 8 to the 0. The second place value is going to be 8 to the 1. And the third will be 8 to the second. And basically, when we simplify those, we're going to be writing down what the groups are. So 8 to the 0 is 1. So these are just the ones place. This is the same for every base. The ones place. Once you make a group, in this case, we make a group of 8. Once we make a group of 8, then we have the second place value. Okay, and 8 times 2 is going to be 8 times 8. Sorry, is going to be 8 squared, which is 64. Okay, so the first place value is the ones place. The second place value are groups of 8, and the third place value are groups of 64. Okay, so when we want to convert a numeral in base 10, we got to go ahead and take these place values and separate them out here. And so the third place value are groups of 64. So in our digit, we have a 2. So that is 2 groups of 64. And we have 4 in the middle, and that is groups of 8. And then our first digit is a 3, which is our ones place. So we separate these out, and we go ahead and calculate. So this is 128, this is 32, and this is 3. And when you add all these up, you're going to get 163. Now let's say we wanted to convert 163 back to base 8. How do we go about that? Well, we got to know what our place values for base 8 are, which we just talked about above. And the first 3 would be, of course, the ones place, the groups of 8, and then groups of 64. And so we want to find out how many groups of 64 are there in 163. And then we want to know, once we make groups of those, whatever's left over, we want to make groups of 8. And then we want to just have the ones place. Okay, so in finding out how many groups of 64, that's division. We're going to take 64 and see how many groups are there in 163. And so if you use your calculator, we're going to see that it goes in twice. And when you multiply this, it's going to be 128. Now let's get the remainder, which is 35. Remember, we're using our calculator to fill this algorithm out. The 35 is what we need to make more groups out of. So we're going to take our 35 and see how many groups of 8 can we make from 35. Well, we know that 8 goes into 35 at least 4 times. And if we multiply those two, we're going to get 32. And we get 3 left over. And then the ones place is just going to be, we have 3 remaining. So how many ones are there in 3? And this 0 right here is just to confirm that we don't have any more to account for. They're all gone. We've used them all. We've made 2 groups of 64, 4 groups of 8, and 3 groups of ones, or I'm sorry, 3 ones. So that's your answer right there, 243. Okay, so that's converting to base 8. And now let's do some adding and subtracting in other bases. So I have an example here of base 4. I have 202 base 4 plus 33 base 4. And so what we want to do is remember that we're adding is just counting. So when you count in base 4, you have basically 1, 2, 3. There's not a complete set yet, but once we get 4, we have 1 group of 4 and no remainder. 5 items in base 4 would be 1 group of 4 and an extra, or that remainder, so that's going to be 1, 1. Okay? Now, so don't say 11, 12, 13 because this is not base 10. This is 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 0. So 2, 0 means 2 groups of 4. That's going to help us. This right here is basically your answer key to adding. And so when we come over here, we're going to say 3 plus 2 in our system is 5. So 5 items would be the numeral 1, 1 in base 4. So I'm going to put the 1 here, carry the 1 as usual. And I'm going to add 3 plus 1 is 4 in our base. But in base 4, 4 items is right there. It's one group of 4, no remainder. So that's a 1, 0. We're going to put the 0 here, carry the 1. And then 2 plus 3 is just a normal 3 because it's not a complete set yet. And there's our answer. Now, if we wanted to subtract, we're going to subtract like we usually do, but we're not going to be borrowing groups of 10 and giving groups of 10. We're going to be borrowing groups of whatever base we're in. In this case, we're doing groups of 4. So when I subtract, I don't have enough. I'm going to take one group away and give a 4 and give that group to the next place value. For example, I'm going to borrow from this 2. So we're going to make it one group here. We're going to take that group we just borrowed and apply it to the 0. And so remember, we're borrowing groups of 4. So 0 plus 4 is 4. Okay, I know that sounds kind of strange, but we're borrowing groups of 4, not 10. And now I need to borrow a group from this 4. So now it's going to be 3 groups. And I'm going to add that 4 to this 2 to make 6. Okay, so 6 minus 3 is 3. And 3 minus 3 is 0, and I'm bring the 1 down, so it's 103 base 4.